Good morning. Hope everyone's doing all right, and welcome to my talk on innovative ways of working. Before I start, I want you, I want to welcome you to my home. Um, Normally, when we have these events, they're somewhere in Manchester or around the UK, and we're face to face. But on this occasion, we're in what has been my office for the past 12 months. So, welcome to my office environment. So I'm going to pull up some slides and I'm going to take you through a personal way well, personal approach I've taken on innovative ways of working. And it is a personal view. It's not necessarily the same as yourself. Everyone's gone on their own journey on this over the last 12 months. But I felt it was really important to share what I've been through, and certainly to give a view from here how I've spent my last 12 months, and also being part of an organisation that's also had to innovate and adapt to its ways of working. So, what's the objective of today? And the two things I want to really call out is, yes, I'm going to share my personal view. I'm going to share what my experience has been like working from home, um, but also to kind of throw a few questions out. And the first one is, have we all experienced the largest transformation ever? With no choice in the matter, have we all just personally just been through one of the biggest changes in working life? Have we all had to test and learn on a grand scale? Have we all had to innovate without realizing we're innovating? Have we all changed the way we do things just naturally without really realizing it? So hold that thought, and when I'm going through presentation, just maybe have a think about what you've done, what your organization's done, and see if you can see any similarities, or actually of what I've done completely different to how you've been. So first of all, I thought, what was it like, right, before March 2020? What was the place like? So let's think of the office, yeah, the office environment. It's a collaborative environment. So the days used to rock up to work, and there would be people around you all the time, where you could just grab one another, quick chat for this, quick chat for that. You may be sat within a team, a squad, a tribe, but there was a place where that you could collaborate very easily. Took it for granted, to be quite honest. Um, and also, you might have had a coffee shop. There might have been somewhere for you to meet up just on an informal basis. I mean, there were gyms in office environments, not just coffee places. But again, it was just that place where you could meet up, and that physical contact with someone. And I think when I look back at where I work at the very group, I think it's a place of belonging. It's somewhere central that everyone sharing the same goal. We all are part of something, and I think that belonging and that together, as cliche as it sounds, I think I've missed that massively since lockdown started. So that place of belonging, I wouldn't want to underestimate. I think that is crucially the point of having a physical location, and of course the banter, the fun, um, that completely obviously disappeared. And being in an office environment, you'd often have those special moments, those funny moments, those accidental jokes, and that laugh that was there. Obviously missed that as well. So I think when I think back to sort of the pre-COVID lockdown of the office environment, I think what a place, what an in a place to innovate and to be creative with one another. What a place that kind of binds people together, and often would lead to transformation. Um, so I think hold that for as a thought for the moment, and well, we were locked down, weren't we? Put into lockdown, and what did that actually bring? So, from being in an office environment where you would have this brilliant place to innovate, collaborate, and be really creative with things, well, we were forced to work from home, and I think on the kind of light-hearted side of things, and the I suppose being positive about working from home, we grew work colleagues, our own work colleagues, our pets, for those who have pets, and I think if you've got a dog or a cat, they undoubtedly have interrupted many meetings. They've no doubt been the star of the moment sometimes. I know, and I'll appreciate now. You might get we might get a special guest appearing. She does get jealous. The dog does get jealous when I'm on the call. So you might get we might get a work colleague coming in a minute. But our pets have been part of our work for the past 12 months, um, and I think that has actually helped in some aspects of that part of lockdown. Flexible ways of working. Wow, being really flexible to um, not necessarily be as rigid as I go to work at this time to avoid the rush hour. Having that flexibility has really helped. I think with working from home. I think it's been some days might start later, some days might start early, some days might work really long hours. There's dog walks in between, and taking regular breaks as well. So I think that flexibility has been brilliant. And like I say, the no commute to work. I mean, I commute to Speak from Warrington, and it's not as bad as what it used to be when I worked in Manchester. But I don't miss the commute. I don't actually miss that regular journey down the road. And I'm sure many of you will probably agree with that. Some highlights of the year. You're on mute. Hopefully, hopefully I'm not on mute at the minute. I've done it a few times. And also the other saying has to be, can you see my screen? And hopefully you can. So some positives from working from home, and we should look at that. But there has been some challenges, and I think when when we were all asked to work from home and lockdown happened, some of these that I'm going to float up now happened on day one of working from home, and unfortunately the list is longer than the positives. So there was no physical contact. So remember that office environment for collaboration and being that creative center for people disappeared. And that really did impact. I'm sat in my office right now, this room. There's no physical contact for colleagues. All of a sudden, joiner movers leave us. Wow, what do you do with people starting? Where do you start? Normally it would be come into work, we'll do a showcase of the office, we'll introduce you to people, we'll grab a coffee, we'll have lunch together, we'll go to a few meetings. But what we're going to do now, I'm not even going to physically see these individuals, and some of these people are new team members, um, people moving teams, and then people who are leaving the organisation. That something that was a fairly big part of working life is suddenly remote. Team meetings over screens, that was a challenge. Making team meetings that were dry, and that's most definitely a challenge. Um, no side of desks. No, like, oh Rob, can I just grab you for a minute? Oh, have you just done this? Oh, can you just sign this? Can you just do that? And instead, we had the formality of a team session going in, which I'll come on to in a second. Those accidental conversations, corridor conversations, coffee conversations. I haven't seen this person for 2 weeks. Hi, how are you doing? None of that was happening. And I guess creativity, question mark. On the early days of lockdown, was I as creative as I was? Was I hitting a barrier? It was a bit. I don't know. I don't know how to be creative with a 15-inch laptop screen. I don't know. So that definitely was a big challenge. Underscored the next one because I'm going to kind of touch. I'm going to piece me a little bit further on into this, but being alone in this environment, or being away from your work colleagues, definitely impacts mental health. And I think I've underlined that. I'm going to come on to that shortly, so I won't dwell on mental health too much at the moment. The last one for me, morale of the team. How can you ensure your team members are happy, that they're that they are productive, and that they feel that belonging as well? So Yeah, lots going on there. And I guess then when we were all thrown into lockdown, we probably did this. We hit the innovation button. Some of us might have hit the panic button. Some of us might have gone, well, this is only going to last for a couple of weeks. But I think personally for me, I hit an innovation button. And I think we all did. We all had to. And I'm going to focus in on some of the tech that I think helped with that innovation, and then talk a little bit around that as well. So I think for me, uh, I would class this as suddenly my core tool, Teams, became my day-to-day kind of activity running of sessions, running team meetings, running my team members one-to-ones. You could document your meetings. You could create brilliant instant messaging through it. Um, but two things that I was really surprised that really kind of worked from an innovation perspective was running interviews. And I don't know how you all felt about this, but when you're running an interview, you can't beat face to face, and you can't beat that non-verbal communication. But um, running an interview through a Teams page, I really felt it for the candidate. Sitting there in their office environment, in their home, having an interview for a job. And I think the one thing that I tried to do in all my interviews that I did and conducted was make the individual feel at home. Um, no pun intended, but literally relax. Try and make it as informal and as easy for them as possible, without taking the emphasis that it's too informal, too uninformal, if you like, but make it that they're comfortable. They can really show the character. You can show your character and what the organization of Very can bring, but trying to kind of distill the issue of we are having an interview through a laptop screen. And once you've got through that, I think actually interviews went very, very well indeed. And um, sharing screens or basically making sure you're on the same level field as they are, it just helped. And business updates as well, I'm going to come on to that shortly, because I think they were a huge part of the organization. The way an organization communicates to its employees is vital, and I think Very's way of choosing Teams as a way of communicating, for me personally, it kept me in contact with what was happening and changes that were happening within the organization. So Teams, huge place for innovation, I think, and changes of that. I'm then going to kind of not go dwell on each of them, but I think these were a big part of my innovation as well. So Miro was a huge part of that, and Miro was one that created that creativity for people who were online. So we lost the board space, the whiteboard space, the rooms. It really created that collaboration and creativity. Slack was brilliant for creating a channel if there was an issue, getting people rallying around, quick fire resolution, getting management team to view those issues as well, and getting real collaboration that way through the likes of Slack. And it really strengthened Confluence and Jira from the agile ways of working, really kind of strengthened on that. So these tools really came into their own working online. But I think networking in general, social media, I reached out. I overreached out. I reached out and reached out even more, because I think your network, when you're in this funny situation we're all in at the minute, working from home, really kind of lean into to social media, really see what your network's up to, both from a professional LinkedIn to non-professional, kind of really sharing that experience of what we're doing. And I think networking was absolute key. But, and there's always a but, for me, I personally started to hit a bit of burnout. I'll be honest with you, it was the back-to-back meetings, the back-to-back Teams meetings, the more kind of relentlessness of looking at a screen. And I was finding as well that I wasn't taking the breaks. I wasn't taking holidays because I was at home. And it was quite sunny last spring. Let's be honest with you, it was quite nice. but I did hit a burnout. And this is where I want to go back slightly to the mental health that I underlined on a previous slide, because it really impacted me personally. And I would say that, uh, unbeknownst to myself, how much damage I was causing to myself by not actually being a little bit more disciplined with how I was working and the way of working. So I created myself an honesty sheet, and this is me personally. I've not shared this with anyone, no one at all. This is you're hearing it first. And I took this into, part of my life that that I was working on. I do lots of things outside of work, and what I decided to do was use it as a domino. So you may hear this from some of the professionals out there. If you actually break things down into smaller chunks, you can achieve greater things. We all do it from an agile ways of working, but in reality, when you're faced with a new challenge, you might actually not be able to foresee it, and you may end up actually drowning in the amount of work. So simple rule was, I'd set a goal for the now, the here and now. Anything that's stopping me or is hindering me from achieving that, and start working out what's in my control and what can I do about it, and kind of review that on a regular basis. And I've done this not in work necessarily. I've done this on things outside of work, and it really has helped me. And I'm going to do a talk one day on this whole experience of mental health that I've had personally over the last 12 months. So what I would say is that, this is definitely something that it's a professionally I've been doing, but I didn't do it in outside of work. And I think that kind of personal kind of reflection of how I was working, what was really helpful was the organization also did a lot of listening. And I think I was having my own challenges by working from home, but the organization also realized that there's a mass of people here working from home, and they listened. They wanted to know how we were all feeling, how were things going. And it was great to hear from the senior leadership team about how they were feeling, how they were experiencing this new innovation and this new way of working from how we were forced into. So what they did, and what we all did was we all listened to one another, and I say we did some learnings and we started to improve. And here's some of the things that, as an organisation, we started to implement. So all those technologies that were bringing a brilliant ways of working, well, let's reduce the meeting time down to 45 minutes, not an hour, and give yourselves 10 or 15 minutes break in between. Great. I did that straight away, and I can say that small tweak, if you're not doing that, definitely do that. Equally, half an hour meetings down to 25 minutes. It really gives you focus. Company said, let's have a no meeting time period. Make sure you're getting a break for your lunch. Make sure you're taking regular breaks away from the desk. They've come up with really great well-being approaches on how to exercise and making sure that you do take that step back. I've added one in there. It's a bit of a personal one, a walk and talk session. So rather than have a meeting through Teams, get your phone, go for a walk. As long as it's not confidential, it's quite generic. Go for a walk, and I find that helps as well, because you're focusing on the individual, but also you're outside. Only one word of advice: choose a sunny day. I was caught out when I did this, and I did get wet. And I think outside the box. I think the organisation has done that really well. So pre-recording messages from leadership team about how we're doing, social quizzes. There's loads of social things happening at the moment. We've done digital conferences. They've been so dynamic, and everything from trading to well-being to having quizzes, etc. They've been really superb, excellent, and having less formality in sessions as well. So I think that's been a key to a lot of the innovation. It's not just about the tech. It is definitely about innovating with yourself and about how you work and how things can work better utilizing the technology. And I think now where we're at now, or where I'm at now as well, is we're in this position where lockdown is starting to ease. fantastic, and Very's invested in its office space. It's invested heavily in its office space, and who knows what the next few months look like. From working from home into maybe a hybrid view. I think it will be a case of test and learn. I think that's what we will probably end up doing. Um, but I think that wherever you're at now, it's to listen to your staff, listen to your people, listen to yourself, about what works for you, and let technology support you in that journey as well. Um, so, have we experienced the biggest transformation? And some of the technologies I've listed there are not, brand new, but have we actually experienced that transformation on a large scale? I'd say we have. I think each and every one of us has. But for me, what I think we've done is we've redefined a new quality, and a new quality of working that utilizes the technology that is out there today, listening to your people and your staff about how they're feeling and how things are going, to then taking both of those components and learning and improving from that. And that is basically where I think, as where I'm at right now, and where I think many companies are at right now, is we've just done this 12-month, um, very long kind of working from home. We now need to listen about what we can do next and learn and improve. We've proven we can work from home. We've proven we can work in an office. Now let's see what we can do as lockdown eases. And what I would like to kind of finish on is, obviously, I'd love to share what the journey of the next 6 months look like. And what I would say is, if I'm in the office and assuming the office opens up, I'm more than welcome for people to come in, say hello, and for me to show you around and to share what experiences we're having at the moment where I work at Very. But equally, we can have a Teams call about things I'm doing differently, and since lockdowns eased, what am I doing differently now that maybe I've got an office to go to as well. And on that, I want to thank you very much. And there's my email address if anyone wants to get in touch. And thank you all for your time and for listening. Thank you.
Big thanks to Rob for that presentation, and for some great honesty throughout the presentation as well, which is always nice to see, bringing back the human elements of business transformation, which is something we can all kind of tune into. So thanks for that, Rob. And I can see Rob has very quickly come through there, which is great. Good morning and welcome to you, Rob. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing great, Chris. Good morning to you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. We've had a good morning so far, and that was a really nice presentation from yourself. So, really appreciate it. I'm glad you could spare the time to do it and to kind of share your insights and your narrative. Over the course of the last kind of 16 months as well. And as mentioned. Full respect to you for revealing more on that burnout and that fatigue that you faced, and you obviously touched on the mental health elements. And I think it's something that a lot of people have faced over the pandemic, and it's good to talk about it. Very good to talk about it. So real good that you brought that up, and it's good to start those kind of conversations as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really key that we're all honest with each other, and we can reach out. I think, and that was what I was trying to get across in the talk, is that I think the organisation did a brilliant job at reaching out and allowing people like myself to really share what my experience is and was, and how we can move forward. And wow, we've come a long way. We really have, and we've done it all together. So yeah, I just wanted to get that across.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then you talked about a lot of the challenges from the course of the pandemic as an individual and as an organisation, and the ways of approaching working. What do you think has been the biggest challenge for you in a sense of transformation over the last 12 months? When I've spoken to people before about this topic, they've drawn on having to learn new tools and technologies, whether that's communication tools or whatever that's been kind of onboarded. What's kind of been the biggest challenge for you, do you think?
Yeah, I think it has been in the past. For example, my role that I mentioned in the talk as well around
Yeah,
the whiteboard sessions where you just go to a board and you'd start scribbling ideas, creativity,
yeah,
and I felt that really personally quite challenging because I was thinking, how do you do that across a screen, and then how do you share ideas? And I think having something collaborative that's creative,
yeah,
I think once you start using the tools, that it really does help. So I think that was one of my biggest sort of first day challenge. Right, how do I get a large group of people collaborating? How do I get a large group of people getting their brain juices flowing? How do I get that honesty and that challenge
yeah,
in a workshop? And I think mixture of teams and Miro working together, uh, really powerful. And I think we started to get some real kind of value within a couple of months around that once we'd got over we were working from home. But I think that for me personally was quite a challenge for me because I quite like being there with people and just bouncing off people, and that was hard
yeah,
sat in this chair. So
yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, everything feels quite unnatural at the beginning, and now it seems. I know we had a chat earlier this week, and this seems like the normal now, and the new
Yeah.
normal is a phrase we keep on hearing, but it's become way more normal and acceptable. And as humans, kind of our behaviour is adapted to such, and it's now accepting of this way of working. An interesting point, though, I think, and I'm not sure many people have thought of it as well. When we um, come back to work, and whether that's this new hybrid approach or whatever that might be, we're going to have to transition again. So we've obviously had that
Hmm.
forced transition from the pandemic where we've had no other choice but to work from home, and we've had to have the tools and tech in place to do so. But now, as we move away from that, working from home as a constant to 2 days in the office, 3 days, and whatever that might be, there's going to be more challenges like certain people not in the office that you might need to speak to. So we're going to have to bridge the gap between people in office, out of office, and create cohesion in that way. What do you have any kind of thoughts on how that might work, and is that going to be a challenge for organisations moving forward?
But I potentially yes, I think it will be a challenge, and I think for my own sort of personal experience is that I'm going to look at taking the best of what we've learned from working from home.
Yeah.
There's advantages. You can get on with things, if you've just got to get your head down and get on with things. But
Mhm.
equally, whoa, what an advantage in the office when people are together. And yes, the days when potentially everyone's in the same place at the same time are possibly not going to happen as
Yeah.
often. So I think it's making that best of both worlds and being that flexibility.
Yeah.
And we're going to trial and learn, see obviously what this throws for us.
Yeah.
And as an organisation, that's what we're going to do. I would. Some organisations may need everybody in at the same time, and others may be taking a more flexible approach. But I think it feels like we're just about to enter another new dawn, if you like, of
Yeah.
ways of working. And I really hope that um, we're not forced into a lockdown. I'd hope that as organisations, we don't force people into things. We choose the best of both worlds to
Yeah.
get great value out for our customers and our employees.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. In my earlier chat with Louise from Her Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Services, we kind of touched on that approach and on allowing employees to make those decisions. And
Mm,
the proof of concept is now there. As I think before, there was leadership issues on trust and productivity, allowing a workforce to work from home. They're not going to work. It's proven over the last 16 months that that's not actually the case.
no,
A lot of people are more productive, so it's finding that kind of fine balance. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge, but will make the greatest success of organizations, instilling this new wave of culture and how that
yeah,
might work with that hybrid approach. So should be an interesting journey over the next 12, 18 months for organizations in that respect.
yes,
Um, He mentioned another one of the challenges of working from home was you missed those accidental conversations. So the water cooler moments, the moments that spark some kind of innovative thinking, or may start a new process within the business or whatnot. Can these kind of conversations, or this approach, be emulated by tech and communications? Do you think that you mentioned on a few of the the communications things that you use, do you think they're going to evolve more, and do they need to evolve more to kind of bring in the more kind of that human behavior and the way we work into them?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, and I think that the technology's moved on substantially since where it was, say, 2 or 3 years ago for that collaboration. Yes, you can't beat the accidental conversations, but I think so. I think it's taking that video and that instant messaging. The instant messaging does seem to draw out lots of new ideas, and certainly some of the instant messaging on Teams, whether that is Teams or you're using something like a Slack, but on Teams. What I'm finding is behaviour has changed since first lockdown. So it's people are now opening Teams channels and going, "Hey guys, can you just have a read of this, see what you think?" Or "I've had this idea," and I'm actually starting to see team channels for new ideas. And of course, you can share documents, and you can create space for people to draw as well. So I think technology needs to evolve continually, and I think. Definitely, I'm starting to see that behaviour change with people in the last 3 to 6 months. So definitely, I think that's a must. I think tech needs to move forward.
Definitely, and then we had a comment come in from Jeff Carter saying, "I know exactly what you mean about joiners, movers, leavers. I started with a new company in January, and I've yet to actually go into the office." So with that. People that have joined the organisation that have not physically met, peers and colleagues and whatnot, how difficult is it going to be to kind of move that digital culture back to the office, in a sense? I hope that makes sense.
Anyone who started a job in the last 12 months, massive congratulations for your new role, but also just I really empathize, because starting a new job can be stressful, right? Because you want that expectation, and to come and start a role virtually, big shout out to everyone. I think from answering your question, I'd like to see, certainly as lockdown eases, so if there is the opportunity for new people to join, I personally would try and go and physically see people, especially on their first day. I think that's something I would like to do. But we may have people working away from the northwest. May have people who live in Scotland, in London. That's not possible. So I think the investment in people and time for people, and really on their first day, almost making a bit of a plan. So if you can't physically see that person, and you have to do it virtually, it's making sure that there's a bit of an onboarding plan, a virtual onboarding plan. You've got your network to right really behind you, because there's probably nothing worse than a new starter joining. They've got the laptop, perhaps they're logged on, and they might be sat there. You don't want that. So you want people to feel part of the organisation, and I think certainly having that plan and that network to support and bringing people into the sessions that you're on, I think that's where I'm going to spend more time on as new people join.
Nice, that's a good answer, and that's all we're gonna got time for, Rob. And
cool.
Again, thank you so much for the presentation. Really, really great presentation, and really nice to kind of hear your insights, both from a personal level and kind of from an organisational perspective as well. So we do appreciate that, and really good Q&A session. And hopefully, we'll have you back on a stage of ours, hopefully later in the year, depending on how things kind of move along. But I'm looking forward to bringing the event back to an in-person experience, and collaborating in that manner as well. But thanks so much for your time, Rob.
Thank you, Chris.
We appreciate it. It's always great to have you with us. Rob, you spoke with us in Manchester, our Manchester event in 2019, and it's good to have you back in this capacity as well. So,
brilliant. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, good stuff. So that was Rob Waterhouse, data management and governance manager from the Very Group. Rob did drop his email address on that last slide as well. So skip back to that if you've kind of got any follow-up questions or want to take Rob up on the offer of that last slide as well, where he wanted to welcome you to kind of discuss anything that they're doing over the next 6 months, to hear their approach at the Very Group, and also for Rob to share more. And I'm sure he'll be more than delighted if people do get in touch and take him up on that.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Well, thanks, Rob, and we'll catch up soon.